Everybody right now is talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers' next offensive coordinator and how it could be a guy that is familiar with Mike Tomlin. Well, Jon Gruden doesn't make any sense. Even if it does fit the mold of who the Pittsburgh Steelers are and who Mike Tomlin is and the coaching decisions and hires that he makes, there are two other names that I think are way better, way more of a priority for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or at least should be more of a priority for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they are thinking we need a familiar face, but we do need change. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Today, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, their offensive coordinator position, a position that has taken over headlines over the weekend. The bye week came, gone, and all everybody was talking about was two things. One is Mason Rudolph getting traded, and two, Jon Gruden as the Pittsburgh Steelers' next offensive coordinator. According to Jerry Dulac, and this is just a guess by him, but he was asked in his weekly chat who he believes the next candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or a good candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers' next offensive coordinator is. He said to slow your roll, first and foremost. It's no guarantee that Matt Canada is gone after this season, and he could earn himself another contract. That is the last thing Pittsburgh Steelers fans want to hear. You could ask anybody who has chanted Fire Canada. You could ask anybody who's attended a Pittsburgh Penguins game this season. You could ask anybody who attended a Pittsburgh Penguins game in Washington, D.C., where they stood on the steps before the Capitol game and held a sign that said Fire Matt Canada. It is loud and clear as day. The Pittsburgh Steelers fans do not want their offensive coordinator anymore, but I don't think that they want Jon Gruden. Jerry Dulac said that they're friends, that it makes some sense. I agree. I think that if I am Mike Tomlin, that is not the direction that I'm going. But knowing who Mike Tomlin is, understanding what he's done throughout his career, the hires that he has made, the decisions that he has made, and the fact that this man is loyal to a fault at times, well, I could see it happening. I could see Jon Gruden's name being a candidate and a real one, and everybody's going to talk, oh, why would Jon Gruden take an offensive coordinator gig? That just doesn't make any sense. This is Jon Gruden we're talking about. I'm not disagreeing with that, but at the same time, if you're looking to get back into head coaching, this is the step to take. This is the path to go. And I don't think it's all too absurd to believe that Jon Gruden would say, hey, let's go try to win a Super Bowl together in Pittsburgh. I think that that is realistic and something that I don't care what Warren Sapp says, who shot down the rumor immediately. I think it could actually happen. But I don't agree that it should happen. The way I look at it is that the Pittsburgh Steelers should go young. They should go with a new innovative coach. They should try to bring a position coach up through the ranks, not one that is on their team currently, but another one, and say, hey, let's give him a shot. He's proven worthy. He's had very good success in the NFL teaching this position or doing that or working in this instance. And if it was up to me, I'd call Kyle Shanahan and say, hey, who's left on your roster or on your coaching staff that needs an offensive coordinator gig? Who would you recommend? That's who I'm going to hire. If it was me, I'd call Philadelphia and I'd say, hey, who came up with the tush push and how do I get them over here as an offensive coordinator? Who's your run game coordinator? Who's your offensive line coach? Let me call them. Let me see if they need a gig. That's who I'd call. But understanding that the Pittsburgh Steelers like to make loyal decisions and they like to keep things in-house and just familiarity, relationships, they mean a lot to this organization. They mean a lot to Mike Tomlin. And again, sometimes it's to a fault. But I got two names for you that I believe fit that mold, fit the bill, have some potential, and have enough potential that I feel better about these options than Jon Gruden, I guess, or Matt Canada, or anybody else that we've talked about so far. Those two are Deuce Staley and Antoine Randall. Deuce Staley has made his way around the NFL. He's currently in Carolina, but he spent the last 2 seasons with Detroit. Before that, he was in Philadelphia for 9 years. Philly's as good as it gets right now when it comes to an offense, and building an offense and putting all the key pieces together and watching them succeed and continue to succeed, and being part of that organization, part of that offense, and at times an assistant coach. I mean, I think that stands its own ground right there. I think that that's a name that has had success in the NFL. And then you continue and you watch and you say, okay, well, last year he was in Detroit and he was their running backs coach, and Jamal Adams ran for 1,000 yards, averaged 4.1 yards per carry. DeAndre Swift, even though everybody was talking about, oh, it was a down year. Yeah, well, he still rushed for 542 yards and averaged 5.5 yards a carry. Jamal had 17 touchdowns. Swift had 5. Even if in Pittsburgh, I mean, that's a good year. That's a decent year right there. If Jaylen Warren finishes with 5 touchdowns and a little over 500 yards this season, you're not disappointed in that year. If Najee Harris rushes for 17 touchdowns in a season, you're pretty thrilled about that outcome. I think Deuce Staley has shown his hands. I think that he's shown that he could succeed here. You've seen him during Hard Knocks standing up and making noise and rallying guys. And I mean, I just think that he has the potential. I think that he has the experience. And if you're going to take a shot on somebody who has shown that they could succeed in the NFL coaching positions, Deuce Staley's an easy one. He's one that you could call up tomorrow and say, hey, come on back to Pittsburgh. We love you here. Let's have a good time. Let's get this running game going. Let's get this offensive line going. You're going to be an offensive coordinator. You're going to have to do things that you haven't done before in your NFL career, but he's been an assistant coach or assistant head coach in the last 3 teams that he's been with, so he clearly understands all the in and outs of a football team. He's headed in the direction of being a head coach. That's what he wants to do. Well, the next step isn't to be a running backs coach somewhere. It's to be an offensive coordinator. You might as well call Deuce Staley and say, hey, come on to Pittsburgh. I think it works. I think it's a low-risk move, I guess. One that, yeah, maybe it doesn't work out, but anytime you hire a position coach as an offensive coordinator, there's a chance that it doesn't work out. You're looking at guys that have had success in this league and that have had success as of late, and Deuce Staley has had success as of late. Antoine Randall, on the other hand, I mean, you could look at Detroit right now. That is a team that is led by Jared Goff, who I know that Antoine Randall is a wide receivers coach, and he's not in charge of Jared Goff, but Jared Goff's got 1,600 yards already this season and 11 touchdowns. Of those 11 touchdowns, I mean, Armon-Ra St.Brown is a dude who took this league by storm, who is arguably top 7 wide receivers in the NFL right now, has the production to show it. He's got 3 touchdowns this season. Josh Reynolds has come out of nowhere, a guy that, I mean, 2-3 years ago, nobody is talking about this guy ever. On most other teams, nobody's talking about this guy ever. They developed him into a 3-touchdown receiver this season. And then it took Jamison Williams 4 catches this year to get into the end zone. He clearly knows what he's doing. He's had success. The guys love him. Again, you see it all over Hard Knocks last year with Antoine Randall getting love and showing support and just being a good coach. He's got experience with Mike Tomlin. He's got experience in Pittsburgh. He's a name that overall, the Pittsburgh Steelers, are they going to shoot for the stars? Probably not. That's just not what they do. That's not their philosophy. It's Mike Tomlin, but it's also Art Rooney, and that's just, they're about loyalty, and they're about relationships, and they're about keeping things as close to the standard and the Steelers way as possible. And if you aren't a Pittsburgh Steeler, they don't really want you here. And I think that there are a lot of guys in this league that wouldn't be considered a Pittsburgh Steeler kind of guy. There would be a lot of position coaches or upcoming offensive coordinators who just wouldn't fit what they're looking for in a coach. And, well, Deuce Staley and Antoine Randall fit that as a player. It's hard to imagine they don't fit that as a coach. I think that they'd give him a call tomorrow, much like they did Joey Porter Jr. in the past. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Hines Ward would be another name, but he's not going to come in here as an offensive coordinator. He's looking to be a head coach. He's got to work his way through the ranks in the NFL, and being in the XFL, I don't think that really helps as much as it wants to say that it does help guys. People have tossed that name out left and right. Oh, what about Hines Ward? Oh, what about Hines Ward? I think if you called Hines Ward and said, hey, come coach our wide receivers with Frisman Jackson and see what happens from there, that makes some sense. But if you're going to make a move like that and pull somebody who doesn't have that experience, who isn't maybe as qualified as some of these other guys, I mean, you're probably going to give a name like Eddie Faulkner a shot, your running backs coach, before you make an outside hire for a name that is less qualified than he. But if I had to guess, Antoine Randall, Deuce Staley, two names to watch, two names that make a lot of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, I don't know if Matt Canada goes anywhere. At this point, it's tough to guess when Matt Canada is going to leave or if he's going to leave, because every time you feel like it's time for change, the Pittsburgh Steelers say, no, not yet. And you don't know when that change is actually going to come or if it ever is going to come. I would say I'm not ruling Jon Gruden out. No chance. But I'm certainly adding these two to the list. And I'm saying if Jon Gruden makes sense, which he does, and all the reasons that Jon Gruden makes sense, Antoine Randall and Deuce Staley, they make the same amount of sense. And maybe they're a better hire.